Okay, folks, hey. Goodness, it's cold in Louisiana. It's been raining now almost 6 days in a row. So, anyway, today we're finishing up the Boxcar Children. And I'm so excited because I just got the first 12 volumes of it delivered today in the mail. So, that means we'll get to start on a new one. But I want to wait until we finish the Prince Warriors. So we'll finish this one up and then get back on Prince Warriors the right way. Okay, chapter 10. Do y'all remember what's been happening in this? Because they are really working on a mystery about a ring. It's really kind of cool. They think somebody pawned it, and they go to talk to him, and it's not the right person, and he gets all beside himself. It's really quite interesting. Anyway, chapter 10, The Professor. Soon everyone was talking at once. Henry wanted to go find the professor right away. The others convinced him to wait until they had talked to Sam. That way, if Sam's records back us up, we'll have definite proof against the professor, said Jessie. But Sam said to give him a couple of days. Benny sounded disappointed. That means we'll have to wait until tomorrow. Right, said Henry, as he added whipped cream to his steaming mug of cocoa. So we might as well sit here and enjoy our party. Well said Grandfather, reaching for a slice of cinnamon toast. Violet looked up at the portraits of Emily's parents. Then she looked at her grandfather. He definitely looked a little like Emily's father. Grandfather, Violet asked. Yes? Violet took a deep breath. What she wanted to say wasn't easy for her. Grandfather, she began again, do we really have to sell this house? I mean, it has so much family history in it. Grandfather looked sad. I know, he said. It's a shame to let this house go out of the family, but we live too far away to be able to care for it properly. Could we try to find someone to take care of it for us? Asked Jessie, hopefully. We might be able to visit now and then. This would be a great place to take family vacations. I'll say, said Henry. Grandfather gazed at his grandchildren, then up at the portraits. Emily's mother had the same hair, the same dreamy blue eyes as Violet. We'll see, he said thoughtfully. The next morning, Henry, Jessie, Violet, and Benny woke up early. They were at the pawn shop as soon as it opened. Well, you folks are certainly on the case, said Sam, who looked a little sleepy. I just opened the store a few minutes ago. Were you able to check your records? Asked Jessie. Yes, said Sam. Now let me see. What have I done with that note to myself? Jessie and Violet exchanged looks. They were no longer surprised Sam had been mixed up about the person who sold him the ring. Ah, here it is. Sam waved a paper in the air. The person who sold me that ring is named Professor Francis Schmidt. I knew it, shouted Benny. Oh dear, I guess I did lead you astray when I said Adam had pawned the ring, said Sam, sighing. No wonder he was upset. No one likes to be falsely accused. I guess not, said Violet, who suddenly felt very bad for Adam. We should tell him we're sorry. The others nodded. But first, let's find the professor, said Henry. The Aldens met Professor Schmidt as he was walking across the lawn to the woods. We have to talk to you, said Henry. The professor looked at his watch. What about? He asked. You see, this is usually the time I go feed the animals in the woods. They seem to expect me. Benny stared at the professor. Never in his wildest dreams had he thought the professor cared about small animals. What kind of food do you give them? He asked. Mostly breadcrumbs like this, answered the professor as he pulled some muffins out of his large pocket. Now, what did you want to speak to me about? He asked Henry. Well, it's about a ring that belongs to our family, Henry replied. I did find a ring on the top floor of the house, said Professor. It was in a hole in the wall. Was it a diamond and pearl with a silver band? Asked Jessie. A platinum band, I believe, answered the professor, looking surprised. But yes, that describes it. And you took it and pawned it? Henry said. The professor glared at Henry. I did not take it, young man. I found it and told your great aunt. But she insisted that I keep the ring. What? Benny exclaimed. Did you show her the ring? Asked Violet more softly. Well, no, the professor admitted, but I described it to her. She was quite ill then, you see. I found the ring a couple of months ago when I went upstairs to examine the roof. It was leaking. I was able to fix it, and your great aunt was so grateful she gave me the ring. Oh, said Henry and Jessie together. But why did you pawn it? Asked Benny. The professor sighed. Well, if you must know, I needed the money to send to my sister. She's been ill. The Aldens understood. They were beginning to understand the professor. Now, suppose you tell me what you know about the ring, said Professor Schmidt. It may take a long time, said Henry as he stamped his feet to keep them warm. Well, perhaps we should go inside, the professor suggested. Several minutes later, the professor sat in the living room with Henry, Jessie, Violet, and Benny, and Grandfather. Jessie held Emily's diary on her lap. Here is the part where Emily wrote about the ring, she said, as she handed the book to the professor. The professor looked at the drawing carefully. Then he flipped the pages of Emily's diary and read the passages the Aldens pointed out. This is fascinating, he said. You found a wonderful piece of local history. Grandfather gazed fondly at his 4 grandchildren. They always manage to find important things wherever they go, he said. You know, if I had known what this ring meant to your family and you, I never would have pawned it. In fact, let me go buy it back right away. The professor suddenly seemed in a great hurry. He grabbed his coat off the couch and rushed to the door. Why the rush? Asked Benny. He wants to get the store before anyone buys the ring, Jessie explained. Oh, right, said Benny. But we didn't get to ask him where he found the ring. It didn't sound like he was in the secret room. Don't worry, Benny. He'll be back, Grandfather assured him. Good. I want to tell him how we solved the riddle, said Benny. Sure enough, the professor was back in 20 minutes with Adam. He carried a blue velvet box in his hands. Adam Tormala, I'd like you to meet James Alden, said the professor. Adam is one of my students. I hear he's met your grandchildren already. The professor's eyes twinkled. Adam shook Grandfather's hand, but he barely glanced at Henry, Jessie, Violet, and Benny. I'm very sorry about the misunderstanding with the ring, said Jessie. We all are, said Henry. Adam looked solemn. I accept your apology, he said. Sam told me all about the mix-up when I talked to him this morning. I have no hard feelings, but I still think you children should check your facts more carefully before you go around accusing people. We will from now on, said Jessie. Yes, agreed the others, and they meant it. Adam is very interested in local history, the professor informed them. I told him all about the discovery you children made. He'd like to see the diary and anything else you found. Sure, said Henry. We didn't even get a chance to tell you about the secret room in the attic and how we solved the riddle, added Benny. I want to hear all about it, said Adam, eagerly. I do too, said the professor, but first let me give you the ring. The professor handed the little box to Grandfather. Grandfather opened the box with trembling hands. My, it's beautiful, he said as he held the ring up for everyone to see. The professor fished in his deep pockets. These are the lace handkerchiefs that were in the ring box. They belong to you too. No one sews like that anymore, said Violet, admiring the fine lace. Although the handkerchiefs were yellow with age, they still looked good to the Aldens. And now let's go up to the attic, said Benny. On the way up the stairs, the Aldens told the professor and Adam all about finding the dumbwaiter, the doll's tea party, and the riddle. We knew the ring had to be in this little room, said Henry as he swung open the door. Goodness, exclaimed the professor as he looked at the dolls seated around the table. After we searched the room, we tried to put everything back just the way it was, said Jessie. Just the way Emily would have wanted it, added Violet. Her mind was far away in another era. And here is the dumbwaiter. Benny opened the little door. I see, said the professor, looking inside. And you see here where the plaster is crumbling? The professor pointed to a small hole in the wall near the dumbwaiter's shaft. Yes, we looked in there, said Benny. Well, that's where Emily hid the ring. That hole goes through to the hallway. I found the box on the other side of this wall. I thought that would be a good hiding place for a ring, said Benny. You know, said Adam as he stooped down to examine the hole, I bet Emily made this hole herself. That's what I was thinking, said the professor. She could have made it with one of her father's geology picks. Then I think she tried to plaster it. See how the plaster looks different around the hole? The Aldens nodded. Now that you mention it, it does, said Henry. The Aldens followed the professor into the hallway. Here's the hole where I found the ring, he said, pointing. It does go through to the attic room, said Benny as he bent down to examine the hole more closely. I don't think Emily wanted it to, though. She probably wasn't used to making holes in the wall, said Henry. No, I'm sure she wasn't allowed to, Jessie agreed. Adam and the professor stayed in the attic to look at all the old clothes, toys, and pictures. Then Grandfather suggested they come downstairs to his aunt's study so they could see her old letters. Don't you want to come too? He asked his grandchildren. The Aldens looked at one another. They were now all on Kimberly's floor. We'll come, said Jessie, but there's something we'd like to do first. As the others continued downstairs, Violet timidly knocked on Kimberly's door. Yes, Kimberly said when she opened the door. We just wanted to see how you were doing, said Violet. Oh, said Kimberly, looking a little embarrassed. Please come in. The Aldens sat in Kimberly's small living room. Kimberly held Juniper on her lap and told the children how lonely she was up in Michigan. I miss all my friends and family so much. I should never have come here to go to school. I don't like the climate, neither does my dog. And I haven't been able to make any friends except for your great aunt. The Aldens nodded. Is that why you were crying last night? Asked Benny. Kimberly nodded. Sometimes I get so lonely I can't stand it. The people are so reserved up here. What? Asked Benny. Kimberly smiled. I mean, they don't open up much to strangers, not like in California. Kimberly sighed. But you know, I feel better now that I've decided to transfer to a school closer to home. I'll be leaving at the end of this term. The Aldens stayed and talked to Kimberly for a long time. They invited her to go skiing and sleigh riding with them before they left. I'd love to, said Kimberly as she closed the door after them. Henry, Jessie, Violet, and Benny found Grandfather in the living room with the professor and Adam. They were all laughing and talking. It sounds like a party down here, said Benny. In a way it is. I have a surprise for you children. What? They asked eagerly as they curled up by the fire near their grandfather. Well, Grandfather began, I have decided not to sell this old house. Yippee! Shouted Benny. Jessie and Violet jumped up and hugged Grandfather. Henry beamed. Professor Schmidt has very kindly agreed to look after this house for us. He's quite handy at fixing things, and what's more, he really wants to do it, Grandfather said. I certainly do, said the professor. I've always loved living in this old house. And your grandfather has very generously agreed to let me live here for free. What's more, I'll have access to your aunt's papers and wonderful library for my research. That is wonderful, said Violet. I'm very pleased you're keeping this old place, Mr. Alden, Adam said. It would be a shame to sell something with so much of your family's history in it. I agree, said Henry, smiling. Adam looked at him and winked. We should celebrate, said Violet. I know, said Jessie. Let's have another tea party. Everyone laughed. And that's the end of the story. You know, it's funny because that professor seemed like a grouchy old dude there at first, didn't he? But turned out he wasn't so bad after all. It's kind of cool. You know, there's an old saying that says you can't judge a book by its cover. I guess you can't judge people by what they're looking like either, huh? Anyway, I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.